sycamore tree so he could see Jesus. However, the crazy thing is, once Jesus saw Zacchaeus, he went over to him and said, "Hey, come on down from your tree. I'm going to hang out with you today." So, can you imagine what was going through Zacchaeus' head? This really great guy, Jesus, was coming over to and saying, "Hey, I want to hang out with you." I mean, I'm sure Zacchaeus didn't get much of that in his day, as hated as he was. Of course, the town people were not okay with this. How could Jesus, this guy who was doing all these great things for people, want to hang out with him? You see, that's where grace comes in. Jesus says, "This is one of God's children, and I have come to bring the man home." Jesus saves him, for he is lost. A lot of people do not like Christianity, and that's understandable. When people do things that are outside the rules that the Christian tradition has placed in our lives, people tend to call those people sinners, and that they are doing bad. As a matter of fact, the way that many Christians treat people is that they need to fix themselves before they can be in the fold of believers. We have these groups that Christians set up that say, "Hey, come join us because we are going to fix you, and then you can be with Jesus." Really? Is that right? Is that what we are supposed to be about? If we can't have broken people in our fold, then I probably should not be preaching to you guys. See, Jesus did an interesting thing with Zacchaeus. He did not say, "Hey, Zacchaeus, if you right all of your wrongs, I'll come have dinner with you." He said, "Hey, Zacchaeus, come on down from your tree so we can chill today." It was only after Zacchaeus, who probably didn't experience much love in his day, did Zacchaeus change. See, there's this idea in the Christian faith that really shocks and confuses me. It's this idea that God is out there. That people are searching for God out there. That God just seems so far away. Is God really out there? Where is he? I asked the ambassadors this week where they felt they experienced God the most. And not surprisingly, a lot of people said nature. Now there's this interesting story that I'm getting out of a book called Velvet Elvis by Rob Bell. Ira uses this book a lot. I also really like the book. And I think it's a very interesting story that he writes in his book about where God is. Last year, some friends asked me to be the pastor for their wedding ceremony. They had been together for a while and decided to make it official and throw a huge weekend party, and they invited me to be a part of it. They said they didn't want any Jesus or God or Bible or religion to be talked about, but they did want me to make it really spiritual. The bride said in her own great way, "Rob, do that thing you do. Make it really profound and deep and spiritual." So we decided to meet in the morning of the wedding to actually plan the ceremony. It was a suddenly beautiful day, and we met on a cliff overlooking a lake in the midst of a thick forest. The wind was blowing the tops of the trees way up above us. The sun was coming through in yellow and white beams, and at one point an eagle flew overhead. I kept waiting for someone to cue the orchestra. Anyway, I asked my friends why they wanted to be married in such a natural, organic setting, since it was 4 hours from where we all live. They talked about the beauty of nature, the peacefulness, and the way they fell in love with that part of the state. Then the groom said something I will never forget. "Something holds all this together." So then I asked them if they thought it was a mistake that they found each other, and they said no. They believed that they were meant to be together. There was no accident that they met and fell in love. I then asked them, "Do you think whatever it is holds all this together is the same thing that has brought you two together?" They said yes, same thing. So I had said that maybe what makes their relationship so meaningful to them is that it's a picture of something much bigger. The same force that brought them together holds the whole world together. I then asked, "So today your wedding is about something far more significant than just the two of you becoming husband and wife, isn't it?" They said that they would call this glue, this force, God. You see, there's this idea that God is in everything. He's not out there, far away. He's right here with us. He's the force holding everything together. I know this, and I know this with my entire heart. God wants to be in your life. just as Jesus did with Zacchaeus. He did not simply want Zacchaeus simply watching from the tree. He wanted Zacchaeus to be a part of what he was doing that day. He was right there, already loving you, and wants you to live the life that he has set out for you, an example set by Jesus. Now, what does that life look like? People tell me all the time, I hear about this love God has for me and wants a better life, but what does that life look like? I hear that God has a purpose for my life, but what is that purpose? I believe that the goal and our purpose in life is to bring heaven closer to earth. You hear all the time about how great this place, heaven, is. Some people think of heaven and hell as being faraway places. I can tell you right now that on earth, there are a lot of places that sure do feel like hell. My parents were divorced for a time, and a lot of people that were children that go through divorce can tell you that that sometimes can feel like hell. My mom works as a domestic violence worker, and so she's around a lot of people that have been abused by their spouse, and I have met a lot of those people, and I can tell you that what they're going through is hell. You can't tell me people being homeless and hungry and going through genocide around the world, being oppressed or even killed, can't be described as living in hell. How we live as Christians is to act in a way that brings heaven closer to earth. It is to go into those places and people that are experiencing hell to show them the love of God. Another way to live this purposeful life is to bring heaven closer to where we are at. Can we experience heaven just by going to a majestic place such as mountains and oceans where nature is really beautiful? See, I remember going on a mission trip this summer to Wyoming. I interned with a youth group in Lawrence over the summer, and we were on this mission trip, and we were camping out in the Grand Teton mountain range. And I distinctly remember being around the campfire with an acoustic guitar and singing a song by a band called Gungor called Beautiful Things. And I'll just never forget, just sitting there and singing it with everyone else. I looked around, youth, adults, worshiping together, and honestly praising God. And it was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had, just being at a campfire, playing acoustic guitar. Bringing heaven and earth can be about people worshiping God honestly and earnestly in many different ways. But it can be more than that. On this same mission trip, we were working on painting houses on an Indian reservation. And as an adult leader, I had the unfortunate task of getting on the roof and scraping paint that was closer to the roof than what they could reach with the ladders. Now, it's not that I'm afraid of heights, it's that I'm afraid of falling. So, I was not excited to be on this scalding hot roof. I don't know how many of you have ever been on a roof in a hot summer July day, but it's not necessarily the funnest place to be. Well, lo and behold, we got the job done, and we decided that we needed to get down on the ladder. So it was time to get on this wooden, rickety old ladder and climb on down. And I could not do it. I did not like the idea of having that ladder be the only thing between me and God.